Hello there, Qckslvrslash here, and today we have a video courtesy of Thunderous-Rex in the Tier 5 German destroyer, the T-22. And this was a ship I had a lot of fun in. The earliest German destroyers in the tech tree line, they were unique. They had those really good forward arcs on some of the torpedoes. The T-22 makes it unique is all of its guns can rotate 360. See those rear guns facing pretty much forward. They just face to the sky. And it made her a very effective dogfighter because your guns, it doesn't matter which way, they're always going to stick together. So you never had to wait for like a 180 spin on a gun mount to get it back on. It allowed you to maneuver your ship as best for combat as opposed to, oh, I've got to keep my guns on, like, can't turn that way, got to turn this way. It also brings some pretty effective torpedoes, 7.5 kilometers with a 5.7 detection when you've got that captain going, and that helps out a lot too because you can blind fire or stealth fire your torpedoes. And in destroyers, especially the low tiers, being able to stealth fire goes a long way. You see a lot of players in something like the Clemson where you really can't, just getting themselves in trouble trying to YOLO rush at a battleship or something to get torpedoes in. And there's times and places to do that. It's not something you should be doing every game, yet you do see it, and it's because they've got to be detected, and then once they're detected they just go to get as close as they can before launching the torps off. Now, I personally think there's better ways of winning a situation against a battleship, and I'm putting together a kind of tutorial series about a lot of the basics of World of Warships, to just put it into a video series where I discuss the different things. Some of them will be shorter, some will be longer, but the general idea being to teach some of those tactics. You know, how and when to read, okay, now's the time I push this battleship, or how to get close to them, or you know, how to deal with the fact that, hey, my torpedoes are shorter than my detection range. How does that work? And the same will be true for cruisers and battleships. I probably won't really talk about CVs because I'm just not a good carrier player. Anyways, Thunderous-Rex has found himself what hopefully becomes his first victim, and at close range he opts for the widespread on the torps, just trying to really cast that net and capture this Nicholas. Now the Nicholas, obviously forced to turn, he's paying attention to the friendly Mitsuki and winds up eating a torp. Thunderous-Rex gets his first kill and first blood. And we've got an enemy battleship charging through B. And one of the really interesting things about playing on the Solomon Islands is, you know, it's a low tier game. You get some really weird behavior. There are a lot of times that ships just charge right through B. And then there's other times where an entire force will go up to C or down to A. It's kind of hard to predict where different people are going to go. Now things, despite the first attack, aren't going that great for Thunderous-Rex here. His team is down a destroyer early. They're going to be down a cap because I can pretty much guarantee that V-170 should be able to finish that Koenig off, and then the Kamikaze will get the cap, and yeah, there the Koenig goes. So Thunderous-Rex pops his smoke and just starts going to work. Now this is the German smoke. It's not the strongest, but it still gives you that concealment, and you know, 2 kilometers in the smoke after firing guns, it bumps up to 2.1, so you're pretty much just dealing with that normal 2K. You can see he swaps to AP there for a moment, and I kind of get what he's doing. If the Myogi was perfectly broadside on, sure, but go for the fire, it's put it out. The other thing I would strongly urge destroyer players to do, when you're sitting in a smoke like this, with the battleship nearby, fire one set of torps, save the other. Wait for the ship to turn, because you can see Thunderous-Rex lost an excellent opportunity here to just wreck this Myogi because he sent them all down that first bearing. And the Myogi just turned away from the entire team. Well, now things are about to get serious because Thunderous-Rex no longer has that smoke. The Myogi secondary is opening up, hitting a fire right away, and he's got to get running. The torps are just about ready, and once again, kind of both on the same bearing, which I personally just, I don't think it's the strongest way of using torpedoes, because you risk too much a chance of all or nothing. And there's a time it's great, and in this case, it looks like it's going to work out, but I think there's just times where, you know, spreading them out a bit is a better option. Unfortunately, never mind. Two do wind up hitting, gets the kill, and he is dark. The Omaha and New York, they're shooting, but they're not hitting. And you can kind of see how things are going for Rex's team here. They're down 2 ships now, and 2 caps. The Britannia in the south probably gonna go down. It's being chased by a couple ships. And his team here in the north, all these battleships pretty much held up by a kamikaze, which really just makes them fair game for those enemy battleships. And that's a really tricky thing. And that's where a destroyer can be incredibly strong, even if it's not firing its torpedoes. Just it existing somewhere in the ocean is enough to slow up entire fleets. And well, the CV looks to have gotten a pretty convincing drop on that Omaha. I'm not sure who that volley was at. I'm thinking it was actually at the New York, even though it showed the Omaha targeted. And well, the guns should be enough to finish this Omaha off. And I'd say the second he is dead, Rex is just going to have to go dark and try to contest this cap. Help his team stop the bleed. Unfortunately, the New York gets a big hit, and well, the Torps, he just didn't have the room to lead them. Now you can see Rex is kind of considering his options here. There's a kamikaze somewhere ahead, but there's also the New York and the cap. And personally, I would be in the cap. You're just going to lose too much of your time if you let an enemy run away with the caps for a long time. At the start of the game, minute in, enemy team having the caps, you don't need to start yelling at your teammates, particularly the destroyer players on your team, that get in there, that's your job. It is, but, you know, wait time. But at this point, they're now down by about 200, and it's just ticking away. They have managed to claw back some kills, but they've lost ships in the fight, and that's really hurting them as well. And it looks like Rex has decided, perhaps, that it is best to contest B. He's coming around, probably going to dodge the shore here and just get in, help Mitsuki take the cap, establish that control. At minimum, even if you're going to ultimately lose the game, it buys you time. You know, this is more time to go out, do damage, get kills, really help yourself out. Get that crazy experience that you're after. And, well, 3 kills, 29,000 damage, it's definitely a good start for Rex. That alone would be a good game. He's not done, and neither is the enemy team. The CV also doing a decent job finding the ships that are alone and working them. And that New York should eat some decent damage here. Now at this point the question is, where do you go? And it looks like Rex is planning to go A. I think he's wanting to just try to get in, get damage on these battleships. Or sorry, go to C. I think going A could be the smarter play. He can outgun the kamikaze. It was on lower health than him. I mean, ultimately he is going to go here, and it's what he chooses to do. But to me, the one problem with going there is it feels a bit like, okay, the fight's over, we can't win this. Whereas if you get down to A, you kill the ships there, you get the cap, and you control all 3, you've now paused that enemy point lead. And they are slowly clawing it back. So that would be my personal decision in this, is I would go for that cap. I would do everything I can to not lose this game on points. Then again, you go to A, the New York slips into C, they take it, you're losing on points that way. Now in this case you can see Rex is using the chunk of land and some CV spotting to really get himself as close as possible. He fires them, one a little inside the other, trying to spread that out, uses his smoke, and slows up. And I find it interesting that Rex has just regular damage control and smoke with the premium speed boost. I at first thought it would just been the smoke he wasn't running, and it's like, okay, well, you know, these smokes can be pretty junk, I can understand that. Only one of the torpedoes hitting, a little unfortunate, but it gets a flood, and with any luck, it's gonna stick, though it doesn't look like it has. So, keeps on it with the HE, and just prays for that fire. Sadly, doesn't get it. And you can see the carrier's in trouble. Paradestroyers chasing him down. That really loses you one of your best attributes at this point in the game. That CV's been doing a solid job. I've barely seen much from the enemy CV. It's gonna be unfortunate if he goes down. The destroyers there are on decently low health, and you can see the Césaire just wailed into that New York for some great damage, and I love the Julio. Its guns absolutely ruin enemy battleships. It can be frustrating using it against something like an enemy cruiser. I can't count the number of times I've shot Emeralds, Phoenixes, and all you get is overpens for a couple thousand damage. But you find enemy BB, you're not overpenning, you're just wrecking. So the one advantage that T-Rex has right now is that Kamikaze is spotted. The CV managed to get a bunch of his planes into the air, and they're keeping everything lit. Gives them early warning on his torpedoes to make it nice and easy to dodge, just choosing to slot himself in between a pair, and now he's going for the Kamikaze and smoke. Now, definitely still need to be careful. The Kamikaze has a good torpedo reload, so you want to think about where you're going to approach from, and personally I always try to approach from behind an enemy destroyer, like its last known position. Try to get in behind him. So if you manage that, there's not a lot of options for them to try to turn into you, because they turn to get torps on you. Well, you're going to be able to do a ton of damage to them. And you can see Rex using the AP here. Sadly, doesn't get the kill. The game's still going though. The Julio gets finished off, and that leaves just Rex. And this is where things would start to really not feel good. The enemies have a CV. If that enemy CV does his job, it's going to be impossible for Rex to go dark. There's also this very high health Danae, and well, he put torps in the water. There are dive bombers out in front that could potentially spot those torpedoes before they get there. This is really all going to come down to whether or not this Danae turns, and it doesn't look like he does, so Rex starts firing. And sometimes that alone is enough to get a ship to start maneuvering. And when it is, it feels so great. When torps are just going to go wide, a couple little pot shots, and they turn broadside into your torpedoes. Feels great. And well, this is definitely a fight that's not going to be easy at all. And you can see I'm a little confused by what's going on in the chat. I'm also a little confused as to why this Danae isn't shooting. Like, he was active the whole game, and now he's just stopped. And in the chat, him saying, "just get me," made me go, oh, you know, the Danae wants him to kill, but it was someone else saying that in chat. And that's where I got a little confused. It just seems like, oh, the game's over. But the Danae, I don't know if he went AFK or what, but gives Rex another kill. And oddly enough, the game's still reasonably close. But at this point, you kind of have to decide, how are you going to fight this? If time were allowed to just run, I really think that they'd win. But obviously, enemies at some point here should start contesting a cap, and there it is. At that point, it means it's time to dig in and just try to carry. You're going to have to get close, get torpedoes, get damage onto these battleships, and you really can't afford to give up the cap. And, well, Rex is out of smoke, out of speed boosts, and missing most his hit points, so this isn't going to be very easy. And I would probably try a pot shot here at the Brick Tang just to reset the cap. Might also get him to bite a little hard and start chasing you, into the gap between the islands here, where he could potentially eat a lot of damage from torps. Now that said, he could still sail there, and, well, he knows he's spotted. He doesn't know where Rex is. And that's really Rex's big advantage here, is he hasn't been seen. Now, some good deduction from the enemy team. They would basically know, based on him going dark and him becoming spotted, where Rex is located. But that all relies that they're talking and communicating and trying to figure this out together. And, well, that definitely helped out. Devastating Strike, Kraken, and the Battle Hero, which I honestly don't know what that award is for. I'll have to look that up in the post-battles. And Rex did get another kill, but the enemy team has the cap, so he's got to get torps into this Duke. And it looks like the Duke has decided, no, I'm just going to go away. And, well, maybe he is still coming in. I thought he was just going to do a 180 and run. And as long as ships are sailing towards you, you've got a chance. Unfortunately, you can see the bombers coming, and with no way of hiding and no way of spotting if you were to be able to hide in smoke or something, this is going to spell the end for Rex. He's detected now. The Duke knows exactly where he is and where to shoot. The bombers miss. And, well, the torpedoes don't. The Duke doing his best to throw this. Down to 4,000 hit points. Still hasn't shot at Rex. But there the shells are. They're all going to miss. And the bombers are running away. So Rex is still in this. It's up to 122,000 damage. You can see the Duke healing. And God, you wish you just... If you had your CV here, if you had the friendly CV, this game probably turns into a win, because you're able to hide, you're able to stay dark. Unfortunately, without that vision and just countering of the enemy CV, there's not a lot for Rex to do. He can try to sneak into this cap, but the points are now way too out of whack to be able to pull back by getting a cap. So it's got to be a kill. And sadly, it's got to be a kill and then another kill of their CV. Because while this will pull it back, if he had managed to hit some torpedoes there, it wouldn't pull it back enough. So a few more seconds, the game's done. So Rex does the logical thing, start shooting. It's going to take time for the battleship to get on you. Free damage. To end it off, definitely some heartbreak. Didn't manage to pull out that huge heroic save, but 202,000 credits, 2,700 experience. The Battle Hero was for getting his 10th heroic achievement. Confederate, 2 devastating strikes, Kraken, high caliber, 122,000 damage, and really tried to put the game on his back. Didn't quite manage it, and the points were really against them a lot of that game. And that can make it hard. You know, if it's just a matter of killing ships, if you're in a destroyer and have time, you can do it. But the clock and just the point counter are always fighting against you. And you need time for every rack of torpedoes to reload. And there's no way in an outright gunfight one-on-one you're beating some of those bigger ships. No surprise that he is on top of his team in this one. The T-22 carrying its weight. Even got a couple airplanes for posterity. And I mean, that's why those guns can rotate 360, is they're multi-purpose guns, if I am correct. And when you look at the damage across the board, it's funny because he killed a couple things he didn't really do a lot of damage to, but then got a lot of damage into some things that he didn't manage to kill. And it can be funny like that, but ultimately did work down the targets and the enemy team and put forth the best effort he could. And for that effort, took home 180,000 credits, 2,700 experience. That's on a standard account, so that's pretty impressive. It would have been nearly 300,000 with that premium time. So thank you very much, Thunderous-Rex, for sending this in. I enjoyed watching it. It reminded me why I had fun in the T-22 back when I sailed through her. Hope everyone else enjoyed it. If you did, please consider giving it a thumbs up or subscribing. And as always, I'm Qckslvrslash. I'll have another one for you all later.